You're joining a motorway from a slip road. How should you deal with traffic already on the motorway? When oncoming traffic prevents you turning right. Stop at the end of the slip road and look for a safe gap. Use the slip road to accelerate until you're moving much faster than the motorway traffic. Carry on along the hard shoulder until you see a safe gap. What's the national speed limit on motorways for cars and motorcycles? 50 miles per hour. 60 miles per hour. Match your speed to traffic in the left-hand lane and filter into a safe gap. 30 miles per hour. Match your speed to traffic in the left-hand lane and filter into a safe gap. Which vehicles should use the left-hand lane on a 3-lane motorway? Any vehicle that isn't overtaking. Large vehicles only. Emergency vehicles only. Slow vehicles only. Which vehicles aren't allowed to use the right-hand lane of a 3-lane motorway? Motorcycles. Motorcycle and sidecar outfits. Vehicles towing a trailer. Small delivery vans. Your vehicle breaks down on a motorway and you need to call for help. Why might it be better to use an emergency roadside telephone rather than a mobile phone? It allows easy location by the emergency services. It connects you to a local garage. Using a mobile phone will distract other drivers. Mobile phones don't work on motorways. Your vehicle broke down on the hard shoulder of a motorway, but has now been repaired. How should you rejoin the main carriageway? Gain speed on the hard shoulder before moving out onto the carriageway. Wait on the hard shoulder until someone flashes their headlights at you. Move out onto the carriageway, then build up your speed. Move out onto the carriageway using your hazard warning lights. You're traveling along a motorway. Where would you find a crawler or climbing lane? On a steep gradient. Along the hard shoulder. Before a service area. Before a junction. What do these motorway signs mean? They're countdown markers to the next exit. They warn of a police control ahead. They're countdown markers to a bridge. They are distance markers to the next telephone. Where are amber reflective studs found on a motorway? Between each pair of lanes. Between the hard shoulder and the carriageway. Between the central reservation and the carriageway. Between the acceleration lane and the carriageway. What color are the reflective studs between the lanes on a motorway? White. Red. Amber. Green. What color are the reflective studs between a motorway and a slip road? White. Green. Amber. Red. Your vehicle has broken down on a motorway. In which direction should you walk to find the nearest emergency telephone? In the direction shown on the marker posts. Facing oncoming traffic. In the direction of the nearest exit. With the traffic flow. Why is it important to make full use of the slip road as you join a motorway? Because you can continue on the hard shoulder. Because there's space available to turn round if you need to. To allow you to fit safely into the traffic flow in the left-hand lane. To allow you direct access to the overtaking lanes. How should you position yourself when you use the emergency telephone on a motorway? Stand on the hard shoulder. Keep your back to the traffic. Stay close to the carriageway. Face the oncoming traffic. What color are the reflective studs between the hard shoulder and the left-hand lane of a motorway? Green, amber, white, red. On a 3-lane motorway, which lane should you use if there's no traffic ahead? Left, center, either the right or center, right. What should you do when going through a contraflow system on a motorway? Use dipped headlights. Keep a good distance from the vehicle ahead. Switch lanes to keep the traffic flowing. Stay close to the vehicle ahead to reduce queues. You're on a 3-lane motorway. Which lane are you in if there are red reflective studs on your left and white ones to your right? On the hard shoulder, in the left-hand lane, in the middle lane, in the right-hand lane. What should you do when you're approaching roadworks on a motorway? Speed up to clear the area quickly. Always use the hard shoulder. Stay very close to the vehicle in front. Obey the speed limit. Which vehicles are prohibited from using the motorway? Motorcycles over 50 cubic centimeters. Double-deck buses. Cars with automatic transmission. Powered mobility scooters. What should you do while you're driving or riding along a motorway? Maintain a shorter separation distance than you would on other roads. Look much further ahead than you would on other roads. Concentrate more than you would on other roads. Travel much faster than you would on other roads. What should you do immediately after joining a motorway? Try to overtake. Position your vehicle in the center lane. Readjust your mirrors. Stay in the left-hand lane. When would you use the right-hand lane on a 3-lane motorway? When you're driving above the speed limit. When you're overtaking. When you're turning right. When you're trying to save fuel. You're on a motorway that isn't subject to smart motorway regulations. When should you use the hard shoulder? When you're leaving the motorway. When you're stopping in an emergency. When you're joining the motorway. When you're stopping for a rest. You're in the right-hand lane of a 3-lane motorway. What do these overhead signs mean? Leave the motorway at the next exit. There are roadworks 50 meters, 55 yards, ahead. Move to the left and reduce your speed to 50 miles per hour. Use the hard shoulder until you've passed the hazard. When are you allowed to stop on a motorway? When you're signaled to do so by traffic signals. When you need to walk and get fresh air. When you need to use a mobile telephone. When you wish to pick up hitchhikers. You're traveling in the left-hand lane of a 3-lane motorway. How should you react to traffic joining from a slip road? Maintain a steady speed. Adjust your speed or change lane if you can do so safely. Switch on your hazard warning lights. Increase your speed to ensure they join behind you. How should you use the lanes on a motorway? Overtake using the lane that's clearest. Use the lane that has the least traffic. Stay in one lane until you reach your exit. Keep to the left-hand lane unless you're overtaking. You're traveling along a motorway. When are you allowed to overtake on the left? When you can see well ahead that the hard shoulder is clear. When you warn drivers behind by signaling left. When the traffic in the right-hand lane is signaling right. When in queues and traffic to your right is moving more slowly than you are. When would you use an emergency refuge area on a smart motorway? If you think you'll be involved in a road rage incident. In cases of emergency or breakdown. To stop and check where you are. To make a private phone call. Traffic officers operate on motorways and some primary routes in England and Wales. What are they authorized to do? Stop and arrest drivers who break the law. Stop and direct anyone on a motorway. Issue fixed penalty notices. Repair broken down vehicles on the motorway. You're on a smart motorway. What does it mean when a red cross is displayed above the hard shoulder? Pull up in this lane to answer your mobile phone. This lane can be used if you need a rest. Use this lane as a running lane. You shouldn't travel in this lane. You're on a smart motorway. What does it mean when a mandatory speed limit is displayed above the hard shoulder? You shouldn't travel in this lane. You can pull up in this lane to answer a mobile phone. The hard shoulder can be used as a running lane. You can park on the hard shoulder if you feel tired. How do smart motorways prevent traffic bunching? By using higher speed limits. By using variable speed limits. By using minimum speed limits. By using advisory speed limits. What helps to reduce traffic bunching on a motorway? Contraflow systems. National speed limits. Variable speed limits. Lane closures. When may you stop on a motorway? If you have to read a map. When you're tired and need a rest. If your mobile phone rings. In an emergency or breakdown. What's the national speed limit for a car or motorcycle on a motorway? 80 miles per hour, 50 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour, 70 miles per hour. You stop on the hard shoulder of a motorway and use the emergency telephone. Where's the best place to wait for help to arrive? With your vehicle. Well away from the carriageway. On the hard shoulder. Next to the phone. You're on a motorway. What must you do if there's a red cross showing above every lane? Leave at the next exit. Stop and wait. Pull onto the hard shoulder. Slow down and watch for further signals. You're on a smart motorway. What does it mean if a red cross is showing above the hard shoulder and mandatory speed limits above all other lanes? The hard shoulder has a speed limit of 50 miles per hour. The hard shoulder is for emergency or breakdown use only. The hard shoulder can be used as a normal running lane. The hard shoulder can be used as a rest area if you feel tired. On a smart motorway, what does this sign mean? Use the 3 right-hand lanes only. Use all the lanes, including the hard shoulder. Use any lane except the hard shoulder. Use the hard shoulder only. Where should you stop to rest if you feel tired while you're traveling along a motorway? On the hard shoulder. At the nearest service area. On a slip road. On the central reservation. What's the speed limit for a car towing a trailer on a motorway? 40 miles per hour, 50 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour, 70 miles per hour. When should you use the left-hand lane of a motorway? When your vehicle breaks down. When the road ahead is clear. When you're making a phone call. When you're overtaking slower traffic in the other lanes. You're driving on a motorway and have to slow down suddenly due to a hazard ahead. How can you warn drivers behind of the hazard? Switch on your hazard warning lights. Flash your headlights. Switch on your headlights. Sound your horn. Your car gets a puncture while you're driving on the motorway. What should you do when you've stopped on the hard shoulder? Try to wave down another vehicle for help. Carefully change the wheel yourself. Only change the wheel if you have a passenger to help you. Use an emergency telephone and call for help. What should you do if you're driving on a motorway and you miss the exit that you wanted to take? Carry on to the next exit. Make a U-turn at the next gap in the central reservation. Carefully reverse in the left-hand lane. Carefully reverse along the hard shoulder. Your vehicle has broken down on a motorway. What should you do if you aren't able to get onto the hard shoulder? Attempt to repair your vehicle quickly. Stand behind your vehicle to warn others. Stop the traffic behind and ask for help. Switch on your hazard warning lights. Why is it particularly important to check your vehicle before making a long motorway journey? You'll have to do more harsh braking on motorways. Continuous high speeds increase the risk of your vehicle breaking down. The road surface will wear down the tires faster. Motorway services areas don't deal with breakdowns. You're driving on a motorway. What does it mean if the car in front shows its hazard warning lights for a short time? The other car is going to change lanes. There's a police speed check ahead. The driver wants you to overtake. Traffic ahead is slowing or stopping suddenly. You're driving on the motorway. Which lane should you get into well before you reach your exit? The middle lane. The hard shoulder. The left-hand lane. The right-hand lane. What restrictions apply to people who have a provisional driving license? They can't drive unaccompanied. They can't drive over 30 miles per hour. They can't drive at night. They can't drive with more than one passenger. Your vehicle breaks down on a motorway and you manage to stop on the hard shoulder. What should you do if you use your mobile phone to call for help? Check your location from the nearest marker posts beside the hard shoulder. Phone a friend and ask them to come and collect you. Wait in the car for the emergency services to arrive. Stand at the rear of the vehicle while making the call. You're towing a trailer along a 3-lane motorway. When may you use the right-hand lane? When you can maintain a high speed. When there's slow-moving traffic. When large vehicles are in the left and center lanes. When there are lane closures. What would you expect to find at a contraflow system on a motorway? Temporary traffic lights. Road humps. Wider lanes than normal. Lower speed limits.